If you're asking me, I really don't know. That's a question I've got as well. I was hoping Jared could clear some of that up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Joe, you're a participant. I thought you were the host. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
I just
that's why my
elevated
camera's
your
not on.
I just elevated your position.
Yeah, well, you'd learn soon.
Well, and Joe, I can go ahead and tell you. I mean, I think, and I don't know what, lawyers haven't really delved into the whole PPP. The loans that are coming out. We haven't really delved much into that world. I think that the CPAs did a good job of jumping up and being the, maybe lawyers should have acted faster. We'd have, been busier, but I think the CPAs kind of jumped in since it was so much tax code based, and have kind of taken over the control of that. So I haven't had much other than talking to Jamie Hardy and him telling me what to do with my loan. I haven't had much to do with it.
Okay, I was just wondering because Yo Johnson has been guiding me through the application, and I did get notification from United Bank that they had submitted my loan this week because the first round I got shut out because it just went so fast. But my understanding was that the PPP is for payroll protection and certain other things that you use the money for, but unemployment is simply for your own wages, because I'm an independent contractor. I'm not a business in that sense that I have employees and that type of thing. So I was just fairly confused. It's like, well, how do I know how to spend this money?
Well, I think one I would tell you is, probably if you have a CPA, again, they probably have the greatest information on that. But the PPP, okay. I would say, because this is nothing what I'll be really covering today, but so I don't think we're cutting into that. The PPP and unemployment are, from my understanding, two completely different things. The PPP is for the business. Unemployment is for the employee. So it's an employer-employee thing. I think what the PPP is trying to do is keep people, giving money to the businesses, and it has to be used on payroll, and rent and utilities. I think those are the three things that it can be used on, and those three things only.
Those are the only three things that are forgivable.
Yes, if you want it forgiven, which I think that's, the goal for most of us, is to pay it back. Those three things, and I think 75% of your total loan money has to be used on those three things. But again, I'll plug the thing tomorrow, not even knowing what he's talking about. But Jamie Hardy is doing one of these tomorrow with the Central Baldwin Chamber, with Grinlow Hardy from Robertsdale, and he has been an amazing wealth of knowledge to me. So I would, if you haven't signed up, sign up now. Because he has, they've been amazing.
Who else do we have?
What time is that tomorrow, Gail? 11?
It's at 9.
9? Okay.
I don't know if I'm signed up, but I'll go back in and see.
I think Mr. Joe already signed up. Yeah. Who else is not here that we're waiting on? Just double check our list real quick and then we'll get started. I know we had some others, but sometimes people join late. So we'll give it one more minute while she's looking at that list. Yeah, Barbara, I think you're signed up for tomorrow, maybe, and I think Joe is signed up for 9 tomorrow.
Okay. This is now my full-time job.
Right. Okay, maybe Dina can email those and let them know we're getting started, and they can join after we're started. Okay, we have a few, I'm sure that'll join us late, and I'm going to go ahead and let us get started for the sake of time. It's only about 5 after. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us today. Jared Lyles with Jared Lyles PC in Silver Hill, Alabama. We'll be talking about legal issues for small business during COVID. Excuse me. Everyone, after we begin, everyone will be muted until time to ask a question. And at that time, Brooke will remind everyone of instructions of how to raise your hand. I know all the instructions to raise your hand were sent out also yesterday on the email telling everyone how to join. So all those instructions are there, but we'll go over them again. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Jared Lyles. Jared graduated from Fairhope High School, attended Huntington College in Montgomery. He graduated from University of Alabama School of Law in 2004. After working for a small firm right after law school, he opened Jared Lyles PC in Silver Hill in 2005. Jared has a general practice law firm. He handles legal issues relating to small business, collection, estate planning, real estate, and family law, among other things. Jared is married. His wife, Christy, is a first grade teacher. They have 2 children, ages 12 and 10. He also serves as mayor for the town of Silver Hill. Excuse me. Prior to serving as mayor, Jared served on the town council since 2007. Today, Jared will talk to us about various legal issues facing businesses during COVID-19. We'll be focusing on issues of liability for the workplace as we return to normal business operations, contract issues, enforcing existing contracts and having them enforced against you, and also legal issues involved in working from home and moving to a more online presence. So good morning and welcome, Jared. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Gail, for having me. And thank y'all all for being on, everybody that's on. I will kind of say this at the front, if you know how, to raise your hand or do whatever on this, yeah, I do not mind at all being stopped or interrupted. If there's something I say, you have a question about it or want more information, by all means, jump in, stop me. Because I think that's probably going to be more useful for everybody. If I'm talking about something and you have a question, it'd probably be easier to handle it then come back to it. So feel free. It doesn't offend me at all. I think generally it works a little better when we do it that way. So like Gail said, there's kind of 3 issues or 3 topics that I thought I might go over today or look at today. The first, and what I generally try and do with these things is right now, we're just starting out, so I'm going to put the drier, more boring, and it's legal, so not everything is exciting, issues up front, while y'all are still paying attention, so they're not on the back end. We'll put maybe the more exciting ones there. So I'm going to start with contractual issues. There's one of the big questions with this COVID-19 relates around contracts. So really what we're looking at is 2 different kind of contractual questions for small businesses. And that's one, enforcing your contracts against other people. So you're a business and you're trying to enforce a contract with somebody else, whether that be a payment agreement or a supplier agreement, anything like that. And the second type of contract is when they're trying to enforce it against you. So again, we're talking about, and that could be like your commercial lease, where you're at if you're under a lease, and your landlord's trying to enforce that against you during this time. So a lot of times it comes down to the question, especially in a court, is whether a contract is enforceable. So for all your contracts, the first place that we have to start, and the big issue with COVID, is what's called force majeure. Now, I'm sure as a Southern Alabama boy, I butcher majeure or whatever. It's basically the French word for major. So a major force. And what that is in the law, it's a contractual defense. So if somebody's trying to enforce a contract against you, it's a contractual defense that allows you to kind of delay or excuse your performance. Now, if you've got somebody who's trying to enforce a contract against you, or if you're trying to enforce a contract against somebody else, that is something you need to look for in that contract. Is there a force majeure clause? And what we generally see with this is in hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that, it's generally classified as an act of God that makes it unable to perform the contract. Because this is so new, we really don't, and courts have been closed, we don't have any legal precedent on whether or not COVID is going to be deemed a force majeure. But that is something to look at in your contracts. If you're having a contract on either side, look for that clause, and you may have a defense to help you out, at least in negotiation with the other side of your contract. Now, the reason why this is important, maybe going forward, that's for a now question, but none of us know if this is coming or going again. So look at your contracts with your business right now. If you are entering into contracts, either way, see if they have that. If your business is creating contracts, or if you have contracts that you have your customers sign, look and see if you have that clause in there. If you do not, it's probably a time to start looking at updating that, because you can actually go back now in your contracts and put in pandemic or sickness or something else into that force majeure clause, which will guarantee that it's included if you want it included. So just something to look at as you're kind of going forward, to make sure your contracts have that included to protect you should this happen again in the fall or winter or 10 years from now. If it's not in there and you're still having a contract issue, somebody's trying to enforce a contract against you that you just can't postpone, or you can't pay, there's other defenses. So contact a lawyer. If you're having issues with people trying to enforce contracts against you right now, impossibility, frustration of purpose, there's a lot of common law defenses against that kind of thing to help protect businesses right now during this time. So, talk to an attorney. You may have other defenses available. Another issue that we're looking at with contracts during this is collections. So this is more where you're trying to collect against your customers. And right now it's kind of funny. Obviously, people are in the same place as a lot of businesses are. It may not be the smartest thing to haul off and sue everybody that's not paid. That's probably not, from a business standpoint, your best call. So you may want to, work out agreements and things like that. Now, I have businesses all the time coming to my office with a handwritten note, or something that they've worked up. Oh, Joe, I see Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean Joe's not you, Joe, but I just always use Joe as my common example person. So we'll change that. So John Doe, agrees to pay my company $50 a week until it's paid off. Well, that's great. And it may be a wonderful piece of evidence when we get to, a court case. But there are much better ways of doing that. If you're entering into collection agreements with your customers right now, please go to your attorney, because we can draft documents. Say somebody owes you $5,000 and you agree to, instead of taking it all now when it's due, you agree to stretch that out $500 a month. Well, a lawyer can draft you an agreement. And this person, your customer, is going to be thankful anyway. You're working with them. But they can draft an agreement that this customer signs that if they default, you don't even have to file a lawsuit. You don't have to go to court. Well, you have to file a lawsuit, but you don't have to go to trial. They can do things like a consent judgment, where all you have to do as a business, whenever you want to, if they default, is record it in the court. And it's an automatic judgment, no trial, no anything. So there's things like that we can do to protect businesses in this time while you're working with your customers. So don't do it just, I know I love, that we live in an area that handshake deals are still done. I think that's a great thing. But from a legal standpoint, right now may not be the time for that. Get these things in writing, get a lawyer to do it in a way that protects you down the road should your customers default. So there's really three more, and some of these are contractual issues. Some of these are other, just kind of, and a lot of this stuff I'm going to cover very quickly so that we can come back if you all have more questions. But one thing for businesses that you need to look at, a big legal issue right now, is regarding contracts, is the contract that you have with your insurance providers. Go check and see if you have what's called business interruption insurance. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that they have this coverage because, frankly, it's not one that's used. Now, down here on the Gulf Coast, we may be a little more familiar with it because of hurricanes and things like that. But check your business policies to see if you have business interruption insurance. And what that basically is, it's insurance that covers you if your business is interrupted for one reason or another. Now, and you can file a claim on your own insurance for maybe some of your lost profits. Insurance companies are obviously pushing back and they're saying, no, this isn't business interruption. But if you are one of the businesses that have been shut down by state order, it's hard for them to argue that you weren't interrupted. So look at that, look at your policy, see if you have that. If you have that, make a claim. If your insurance company says no, then call a lawyer, because I think the courts are already kind of showing a willingness to enforce this business interruption for COVID. So look at that. The other thing, just kind of quickly, is severance packages. And I know Alabama is an employment at will state. So a lot of times businesses around here don't have, severance packages and things like that when they let somebody go. But if you're required to let people go, it may be something that you want to look at, one, to help your employee that you're having to let go. But if you're going to pay them some money as you let them go, it's a good idea to also get in return some sort of liability waiver, something that they sign that says that they're not going to come back at you for wrongful termination or anything like that. So just keep those things in mind as you're making these decisions for your business. As business has slowed down, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad thing to try and protect yourself while you're trying to help, your employees or your customers as well. The last thing, and I don't know how much this is going on, but it's something that I have already seen in my office. Businesses are actually getting pretty creative right now as to how to survive during this as they slow down. And what I've seen already in one scenario is these businesses are kind of partnering up and teaming. They're finding networking and alliances and businesses that kind of work together, that they're coming together to try and reduce their cost, reduce the need for so many employees. They're trying to increase revenue streams and cut costs. And sometimes that's involves two businesses coming together. So if you're doing that, that's a great thing. But again, make sure you go to a lawyer, make sure you have a lawyer, they have a lawyer, and that those partnership agreements are worked out so that whenever that relationship is over, if it ends, there's a very clear understanding of that relationship, both throughout the process and as it ends. So again, figuring out ways to creatively come together with other businesses is wonderful, but just make sure you do it the right way. So that's pretty much it for the contractual kind of dry, parts of it. The second thing, and I guess, is there a way to add, if anybody has any questions on the contractual side of it, we can do
If
that.
anybody has any questions on the phone keypad, you can press *9, or if you're on the computer, you can use the chat feature or the little raise your hand feature over on the side by your name.
And if we don't, we can kind of move on. Some of the things in this next section, I don't know what everybody does that's on, but as we're this next section about moving online, a lot of us have moved our businesses home. We're working from home. We're working online more. And so that does create some legal questions and concerns. So really here in this section, I'm just trying to provide some kind of helpful hints, some things to look at, some things to make sure to double check yourself, to make sure you're not getting yourself in trouble as you move kind of from your brick and mortar location to your home location. And the first of that is a business license. So if you're going to be working from home, if your home is not where your business is, you may need to look at whether or not your working from home will trigger the need for a business license in the city or county or wherever you're at. I imagine right now on this temporary, if you're going temporarily, I don't know that too many entities, municipalities or counties are coming after people, but it's definitely something that you want to check if you're going to kind of stay in a 50-50, for a while now that we're, coming back open a little bit. You may want to check because you don't want to run afoul of wherever you live, their requirements for a business license at the home. With that same kind of thing in mind, a lot of people took computers and stuff to the house, as they're working from home. If you're doing things from the house and you took supplies, equipment, anything like that to your home, and let's say your home caught on fire or something like that, something horrible. Well, you need to check your home. Most homeowners insurance policies do not cover business activities in the home. So if you've taken all this equipment home to try and operate, or if you sell things and you've taken your inventory home and something destroys it, that stuff is not going to be covered. Even if maybe if you have insurance at your office, but you bring it home, or your shop and you bring it home, if it's destroyed at your home, there's a good chance it may not be covered under either policy. So please go to whoever your homeowner's insurance policy is, check that policy. And then if you don't, most insurance companies will allow you to add a business rider to your homeowner's insurance policy. It's very inexpensive. And that way, at least the stuff that you've taken home, computers or inventory, will be covered if something were to happen. And that's a very low cost policy generally to add to your homeowners. The next two things are more of a kind of an IT, issue. If you are taking now, I'll know at my office, we've always taken some payments, but we're doing all of our payments exclusively are online now. So if you're taking online payments or doing anything that involves credit card numbers, social security numbers, bank account routing numbers, things like that, if you have not been online before, there's a good chance you do not have the proper safeguards set up on your systems to protect that information. If you're storing information on your computer or accessing these payments, you need to make sure that your business has done what it needs to do to get the online security updates to protect your client's information. Because if you don't, say for example, you got all these credit card numbers and you don't have the proper stuff in place, and you're hacked and that information is stolen, well, if you didn't do anything to protect that information, they're going to come after you as well. Your customers are going to come after you. So that's a huge liability risk, I think, right now that a lot of businesses have, because for most of us, we've not been online. We've not been remote. So, as we're taking our computers home and remote accessing in, and that's kind of the next thing as well, you need to make sure that you've talked with your IT department or get in with an IT company that protects that information. And that leads me to the next one. A lot of businesses are sending computers home with their employees. So you may have been protected here at the office, and there may have been firewalls, and there may have been all kind of protections for those computers while they're here. But if you're sending things home now, well, you need to have a policy in place with that employee, something that they sign that says, hey, look, you're not to use this for any personal use. You also, because they may be on an unsecured network at their house. And so if that information is on their computer and they're using that computer and an unsecured network at their home, and they get a virus or they're doing something personally and they get on there, it may expose that information just the same. One other thing you want to think about before you start sending all this stuff home that probably has proprietary information on it, these computers, you need to make sure that every employee that's taking that computer home has signed some sort of confidentiality agreement, because as this proprietary information, client list, and all kind of other things start leaving the four walls of your office, if you don't have that confidentiality agreement signed, you're exposing your company to to somebody who says, hey, I've got my $600 a week in unemployment, and I'm going to use that and create my own business, and start taking the clients that you've then sent. So non-compete, and confidentiality agreements are essential when you're letting these employees walk out the door to go work from home with all your protected information. So that kind of covers a little bit of the moving online privacy kind of and things. I will, as a side note, I will tell you a couple things. This is not legal at all, but as you're moving online, as you're doing stuff, if you've not done it before, and this is stuff that information, frankly, that was given to me when I was a young lawyer by the bar, by, just a marketing firm. If you do not already have a Google alert set up for your name, for your business name, for your personal name, for anything having to do that could be tied to your business, you need to go do it now. And what a Google alert, because as we're moving online, part of that is protecting your reputation online. What a Google alert is, you can go to Google, you can put in a keyword. So for mine, I have Jared Lyles, I have Jared in Lyles, I have Jared in Lyles PC. I put Google alerts, and what that is, anytime Google finds my name online, it sends me an email and tells me. So anytime a new review, a new anything pops up, Google alerts me to what it is. So if it's a good one, great. I can say, hey, thanks, I appreciate whatever. So it allows type person that can write a review on me. So as we move online, go do that. Go, claim all your pages, Google and Yahoo and all that stuff. Go claim all those. Protect your online presence, because as you move online, that's the only presence you have anymore. And again, those are not, do Facebook searches of your name. I know it seems like it's vain, but Google search yourself, Facebook search yourself. Do it once a week. Have somebody at your office do it. It protects your online identity as you move online. And again, that has zero to do with me being a lawyer, but just me as a small business owner. That's tips that have been given to me. And frankly, it's, it saved me a couple times from people that I beat in court and then, had bad stuff to say about me. So, so that was just kind of an aside. Any questions on any of that?
Hey, Jared, I have a question. It's just a vague question. Whether you have legal advice or you ran into it during this or with different clients, I just had a quick question about, say, employees working from home. And I know, the Department of Labor always comes up. We don't allow employees to work off the clock, but as far as tracking time, working at home, do you have any suggestions for that? Or have you run into any issues with businesses or?
The Department of Labor actually has a pretty good, I think they just put out a pretty good memo on, helpful ways that you can do that. And obviously there's differences between salaried employees and hourly employees. Really for most of us, I think we're dealing with hourly employees. And the important thing there is just they need to track their time. Obviously, if they're using your computer exclusively for their work, that's an easier. There's tracking software. There's things like right now, if any of you have kids in the public school system, you may not know it, but your kid's teacher can watch what they're doing as they do it. They can see the minutes that they work on the computer every day. They know when they sign on, when they sign off. So tracking software like that can help keep the hours. You got to pay them for all the hours they work. But it's tough because, an employee can say, hey, I worked 8 hours today and there's really no proof behind it, or it's a little bit harder. So I would recommend at a very minimum, you know, because for a smaller firm like me, I'm not going to update, I'm not going to buy software to track your every movement, you know.
Right.
But I would probably, you know, require timesheets, you know, or something of that nature just to back me up should the Department of Labor ever come, you know, come and want paperwork. It's always best to have paperwork. Even if it's just a Word document that you printed out yourself, have them fill it out, turn it in weekly, keep that in their file and pay them off of that. Especially if they're claiming half unemployment, you need that for unemployment anyway to show what they've done every week. You know, they've got to report that too. So
Great, thank
you. You know, kind of moving on to the last section. This section got a little bit bigger from when we started this up to today because it was the returning to work section when we first kind of started talking about this. You know, we didn't know when we were going to return to work. Now we know it's Friday. So we've done a little bit. I've tried to do a little bit more. But, you know, as businesses are opening up, one thing that's going to be very, very important is having policies in place to protect your business, your employees, and your customers. Okay. And it's important not just to say, oh, we're going to do this and this, write them down. All right. Establish a set of policies. And this is why, okay. This is another unknown. If an employee comes to your office or comes to your place of work and gets the virus after returning to work, is that a workers' comp claim? Did they got sick at work? They got injured at work. Is it workers' comp? Well, that's one of the things that really nobody knows yet, but I absolutely guarantee you are going to see workers' comp claims filed for people that get sick with COVID at their place of employment. Now, beyond that, even beyond a workers' comp, if we are going to see lawsuits where people come to work, get the virus, and then sue their employer because they say proper safeguard measures weren't taken. We're going to see people that show up to places of business and claim that they got the virus there, and they're going to sue that place of business because that place of business did not take adequate precautions. I mean, I use the slip and fall. You know, if I'm in a store, you know, if I'm in a store and I slip and fall, the very first thing that a lawsuit's going to look at is did that place of business take all reasonable measures to prevent that, right? And they're going to look at with a slip and fall. I mean, you know, had it been there for a while? Could you tell? Did it just happen? You know, so that's going to be the same for this virus. So setting up policies in your place of work to protect against, kind of have infection prevention measures right in place. Because what's going to happen if you got nothing, then that's the worst defense that you're giving me as a lawyer for you. If you got nothing, I'd rather argue about whether or not your policies were enough than whether or not you had nothing at all. Right. So now is the time. You got till Friday. So plenty of time, right? You got till Friday to put procedures in place to at least have these procedures. I don't care if you do a little and then you do more later, but before people step foot back on your place on Friday, you need to have these procedures in place. All right. And we're going to talk about some of these things that I would recommend. Now, look, if you have a lawyer or an HR person with your place of work, have them do it. Lawyers, HR people, we are kind of twisted individuals in that we look at the world in the worst possible scenarios, right? We're trained to see everything that normal people do not see if we're doing our job well. You know, you don't see it because why would a normal person see that problem? We see it, and then we write something in your policy to kind of protect you against it. So have a lawyer, have an HR department. If you've got one, please sit down and write some policies. So we're going to talk about a few of the things, you know, that you may want to look at. But first thing you want to do is wherever you can, utilize creative employment, right, to minimize the risk of the spread of your infection. Okay, and I'm going to give you the for example. I can't tell who all's on, but like I said in the intro, I'm the mayor of the town of Silver Hill. Now I have my law office. I have 2 people that work for me. They've worked. I've started switching. One works on Monday, Wednesday. One works on Tuesday, Thursday, right? So they never come into contact with each other. That's part of what we're talking about. One way you can do that is to split shifts, right? So that this group of employees never comes into contact with this group of employees. Go ahead and make one your morning shift, one your afternoon shift, and don't ever let those 2 switch, because that's a policy that keeps those 2 groups of people separate. So theoretically, if somebody in this group gets sick, these people are still going to be okay. All right. So go ahead and schedule that way. You don't want these 4 people and then these 4 people and then this one person to come over here, because if this person then you've made all of them and they can all get sick. Another thing that we did over at Town Hall is we have 3 departments at Town Hall: utility department, police, and just the office. We have 3 doors and 3 bathrooms at Town Hall. Well, guess what? They all have their own door and they all have their own bathroom. They don't mix. They don't come in the same door. They don't use the same hallway. They don't use the same restroom. All right. So it's things like that. Wherever you can split, split your employees, split shifts, split the areas that they work in. Go ahead and put those things in place. It may not work perfectly, but if you have that attempt, it's going to help you should anybody try and come after you. Work at home still if at all possible. If at all possible, absolutely work at home, because it prevents that person from saying they got sick at your office. If they're never there, they couldn't have gotten sick there. They can't spread it to other employees. They can't spread it to customers. So if you've got an accounting or a bookkeeping person that can work from home, let them. So that's number 1, utilize creative employment and shifts to minimize the risk to employees and to customers. And again, what we're talking about, a plan needs to be adopted by your business to establish these protocols for safety. First, the customers. Okay, you need to take reasonable steps. You have to take reasonable steps to keep your customers safe. You have to do it. One, most of us will do it anyway, but you have to do it, and you need to have these things. You need to have these policies set out, written down. You go every time you go to a bathroom in a public place, right? You see the little sheet up on the wall. This bathroom was cleaned by such and such, and you have a date and a time. Do that. Do that for your whole, the doors, the counters, right? Go ahead and have a sign in where yes, everybody, we clean this door handle every 15 minutes, and this is the person that did it, something. Cleaning. You need to have somebody that makes sure you're adhering to capacity guidelines. There's still 50% capacity in place even with the lifting of the order. Make sure you have guidelines to enforce that. For most of us, it's not going to be a problem. I would love it if I had to say, hey guys, too many customers, too many people trying to pay me right now, hold off. That's a great problem, but have that in place already. Go ahead and post at your front door for notices posted with the guidelines to require customers to adhere to social distancing guidelines. Everybody who enters here is required to adhere to social distancing guidelines. Failure to do so, you may be removed. What you're doing there is you're setting it up, the defense that, hey, look, we told you if you came in, you needed to stay 6 feet from people. You didn't do it. You got sick. That's what's called contributory negligence. In the state of Alabama, if I can prove that they were contributory negligent, that means you win, right? So go ahead and put those notices up of what the customer's required to do. So if they don't do it, it gives you a defense, all right? So have cleaning guidelines, have capacity guidelines, make sure that you have a policy to keep those kind of going and keep those enforced and post those notices. That's what I would suggest for customers. Now for your employees, you still have a general duty to maintain or to provide a safe workplace, right? COVID is no different than, any other unsafe working conditions. So your place of business to protect or to provide that safe workplace. It may look the same, a cleaning rotation where high volume, high traffic places for your employees are clean. But have employees sign an agreement to follow. Like when you set up these guidelines that we'll talk about, put them all in an agreement. and include things like you agree to social distance, and have your employee sign that, right? And I know it makes it kind of us versus them, and for most of us, that's not the way we view it. But these things are important, again, because if you put these guidelines in place, you have your employees sign that they're going to do it. Then if they don't do it, it's a defense for you should they ever come back after you. Some protocols that I would recommend. All right. You need to have sickness protocols. Now, I'm not a doctor. I think there's probably plenty of resources online, but you need to have protocols in place for if any of your employees are showing signs of sickness, right? At our, town hall, especially with the police department, they check their temperature at the start of every shift, right? Because our police department has a lot of interaction, right? They're still interacting. So, they check temperature at the beginning of every shift. If you want to do that, I know places of work that are doing that, temperature, do that at the beginning of every shift. Not a bad idea. But if somebody is exhibiting signs of sickness, you need to have in place, all right, if you have a fever, if you are just coughing, if you're whatever, that we view that this is, potential signs of COVID sickness, go ahead and have it in place. We're going to immediately send you home, and we're going to require that you go to a doctor, before you return. That kind of stuff. You're going to go to a doctor before you return, anything like that, just to protect and maintain that safe working environment. Again, I mentioned it, cleaning schedule. Have a cleaning schedule. Have somebody responsible for cleaning it in the middle of the day and at the end of the day. Things like that you've got protocols in place to try and reduce the unsafe work environment. Office supply sharing. It killed me. I love my assistant. She's wonderful. I use pencils a lot. I don't know why. And they go right here. This is brand new, so don't worry about it. But I hold it right here when I'm typing. Right? And it's not, I know, look, my wife, who is a first grade teacher, would absolutely be horrified if she's watching this and know that I do that. But I put it in my mouth. My assistant comes in the other day to make a note and grabs my pencil. And I was like, well, you can just keep the pencil, right? Because I can't put it back in my mouth now, right? So and it seems stupid, but go ahead when you get back, before your employees get there, go ahead and divvy up the supplies. Give supplies to each employee. Do not let them share their pencils, their pens, their anything else. It seems ridiculous, but have that protocol in place to where they're not sharing office supplies, because this is going to be where they get it from as much as it is a door handle, right? It's going to be the sharing of a pen or something like that. Things that you don't think to spray with Lysol. Go ahead and decide whether or not you want masks, in the workplace. It's not a bad idea to require them in your workplace. Protect your employees, protect your customers. If you're going to do that, put it in writing, make them sign it, make them wear it. That's obviously one of the big ones. Just other things that me, again, lawyer, think of the weirdest things. Go ahead and invest in high capacity air filters, right? Get air filters installed in your, take a look. And I've got the little blue fuzzy thing, the cheap one from Walmart. That's what I have, right? I know that. But go and get the high capacity air filter that will help protect. If you go to court because somebody sued you for getting the virus and you have all these things, and then on top of it, you can say, and Judge, not only that, I didn't spend the $1.35 on the little blue fuzzy filter. I went and got the $4 high capacity thing with the cardboard and the little metal in between, that all of us always pass by, to get the cheap one. Get the not cheap one right now. And if you can tell the judge that, that's just one more thing that you've done to try and protect your employees, your customers, and that's going to help you from a litigation standpoint. Physical barriers. If you can put up a plexiglass, a curtain, a sheet, anything, do it. Keep employees out of other employees' offices if you can do it. Put all these in your policies. Take out the common areas, break rooms, water fountain. I don't even know if anybody has water fountains anymore, but take them out. Provide soap, Lysol, that kind of stuff. And then if somebody gets infected, have protocol for how long they got to stay gone, and what it takes in order for them to come back. All right, so that last section got a little bit quicker. It was I think a 30-minute kind of presentation, and that one kind of stretched it out a little bit longer because we are all going back Friday. So you have very limited time to get these protocols in place. But I think if you just did minimally put in place what I've just gone over, you know, I think you've probably done more than most, and you will probably do a lot to let a judge, you know, if any issue ever came up litigious, or litigation, you know, you at least have a good defense that you did what reasonably you could do to create a safe work environment. So. All right, that's all I got. So does anybody have any questions?
Hey, I unmuted everybody for questions. So if y'all have any.
I don't have any questions, but I really thank you about the protection for employees and customers. That's a big help to us. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Jerry.
Well, good, thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Jared, sorry.
Hey, that's
You know,
all
Jared,
right.
I work from home. I don't have employees. So just the information about working at home and being safe was huge. I really appreciate this.
Well, good. Thank you. Thank you. Let me do this real quick because I didn't do it at the beginning. But I think I have to give any time I do this a disclosure that nothing here can be construed as creating an attorney-client relationship between the two of us. This is for informational purposes only. I'm trying to think what all else I have to include. I should have printed it out. That if
Is
you
your
have
legal advice better than others?
Yeah, that no, you know, that nothing is saying that I'm a better lawyer than any. Yeah. No representation is made that this advice is greater than any advice you would receive from any other lawyer, and that, you know, I'm not.
I've checked with Mr. Shinara, and I don't know if yours may be better.
Well, Alex is actually a pretty good guy. But yeah, I mean, you know, nothing created an attorney. This is an official legal advice between attorney and client. If you have any questions, you know, contact your lawyer. You can contact us, you know, me later. But I have to give those provisions.
Thank you, Gail, Brooke, and Dana. We appreciate all y'all doing this today, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow with Jamie doing that. Thank you very much.
With our CPA. Thanks. Thank you, Jerry, for being with us, and thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.